Alright, for my next anime review, I am doing Voices of a Distant Star. Now, before I get into my overall thoughts of this film, let me go and give my information breakdown. This OVA, essentially, or short film, either way you want to put it, originally aired in February 2nd, 2002, and it has a runtime of 25 minutes. So this goes back to very early 2000s. It was directed, produced, and written by Makoto Shinkai, and this is by far one of his earliest works that I know of. He also had a hand in the manga that came out after. The manga was written by Makoto Shinkai, and it was illustrated by Mizu Sahara, and it was published by Kodansha. And the run for the manga was from 2004 to 2005, and the studio who did the animation for this was Comics Wave Incorporated. And Tenman did the music. Now, this does not have a rating, but if I were to put a rating on this, it would be PG, and it is an action mecha romance. So, alright, let's get into my overall thoughts, shall we? How I came about finding this OVA, I found it in a used comic and video shop near me. I picked it up one day, looked at it, and said, oh, this looks pretty interesting, so I bought it for $5. I had no idea that this is a film that is very hard to find, and one of the easiest ways to actually try to watch this film is if you can purchase a physical DVD copy, or if there's a Blu-ray, you can get it that way. But to my understanding, it is not streaming on Crunchyroll, HiDive, or Netflix. It's not streaming on any of the major streaming platforms. I think you can find it on Plex, maybe YouTube, but I do not know. As far as I know, getting a DVD copy is the only way that you're going to be able to watch this film. Now, my overall thoughts of this film is it is a mixed bag. With it being Makoto Shinkai's one of his earliest works, and with only being 25 minutes long, I am going to give it some leeway with how old this is of an animation and with the short runtime. Surprisingly, the movie has a decent pacing to it. It doesn't feel too fast, and it doesn't feel too slow, and it feels like the pacing's just right for the 25-minute length. The writing, I thought, was pretty good for the short amount of time that they were working with. The animation definitely has aged some. It's a mixture of 2D and 3D, and I will tell you what, the 3D looks pretty good for the age. Not gonna lie, I was surprised at how good it actually looked, especially considering how god-awful some of the 3D animation is from the early 2000s. And considering how bad some of the CGI looks nowadays, I will give this film credit for actually holding up in that department. The 2D animation has aged some, but that's only because of the style that they went with. I'm guessing that they did not have as big of a budget for this film, so they worked with what they had. Makoto Shinkai's fingerprints of his directing are all over this film. Considering I've seen multiple of his other works, this film is nowhere near as good as some of his other works, but like I said, I'm giving it some leeway because of how old this is. The characters, there's really only 2 characters in this entire film. And since it is a love story, it's between those 2, so I would say it handles that aspect pretty well. I'm not gonna give any spoilers for this film, but I will say the ending left a little bit to be desired. It kinda just abruptly ends. So in that regard, it did leave me a bit unsatisfied. but it is an OVA, so I will give it some leeway in that department. That is all I got from my overall thoughts of A Distant Star. Considering the pacing, how short this is, the age of this OVA, and being this one of Makoto Shinkai's first films he has worked on, I'm going to give this a generous 6 out of 10. This was a fine OVA. It's not great, and it's not bad. It is a little bit above average, in my opinion, for how old this is. And I will say, it does get a recommendation from me if you are looking for something easy to watch, if you can find it, and if you are a fan of Makoto Shinkai himself, I would say this is definitely worth putting into your collection. Anyway, I want to thank you for listening to my review, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments, whether or not you have actually watched this OVA. Anyway, that's all for me. This has been Ryder. I'm out.